today is Rich Lloyd, the CEO of Shuka Minerals. Richard, it's good to be speaking to you. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, good to be speaking. Yeah, I'm doing okay. So I'm glad we can be catching up on Shuka here. There's been a bit of news recently. So first of all, you've confirmed that you've received that formal approval for the secondary listing on the JSE, that's the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, with trading set to commence on the 21st of May, so only a week or so's time. So just tell us a little bit about this, what that means really for the company and the appetite for investment out there.
Yeah, it's something the company have been thinking about for a while. As you know, I've been in the chair for a few months now, and various avenues needed progressing with Shuka. This was one of them. And I think with the focus of the projects we have in southern and eastern Africa, the Rukwa coal mine in Tanzania, and the Kabwe lead zinc mine in Zambia, which we're still plugging away to get the finalisation. We don't own it yet, but that's hopefully by the 11th of June, that's when the drop dead date is. So it just seemed natural to have that extra liquidity, and with South African Reserve Bank and exchange control restrictions, it's hard to get South African investors investing in UK listed stock. And we thought it was a natural progression or a natural opportunity to allow those investors, because we've been hearing there's keen interest there. So why not allow them? There's a few hoops you have to jump through to enable all that. The JSE allow you through with a sort of fast track system, providing you're already on AIM or the main board or one of the recognised exchanges over here. But also you do require SARB approval. So they've gone through quite a in-depth due diligence process for us. Okay. And also you need to reserve some shares or allow shares to be used in case of a failed trade. It's not stock lending, so they can't be used for shorting, which would be a daft idea on my part. But certainly you can imagine if a seller such as yourself in the UK, for example, was selling stock and it just didn't quite get to South Africa in time, you don't want a failed trade. So you put a little bit of a reserve in there to allow that to happen. So it's all those little machinations that I didn't realise were there, but we've gone through all those, and yes, we're ready to go on the 21st of May at 9 a.m.
At 9 a.m. Good. So you're heading out yourself, I guess, to sort of oversee that.
Yeah, I'll have to ring a bell or blow a horn or hit a drum or something like that. Okay. I don't think me dressing up in a Shuka, which is the red Maasai traditional garb, it would be quite appropriate. But yeah, sure. It'll be good fun. It's the first listing I've done personally, and I think it's a bit of a milestone for Shuka, and it shows our seriousness for the southern, or the continent of Africa and southern and eastern regions as well.
Okay. Well, as part of that listing, it was mentioned that to help conserve cash, and as part of that listing, that you've actually issued 1.625 million new shares to Gathoni Mashai at 8 pence per share. There's 146 premium to the market here. So that's in lieu of 130,000 in consultancy fees, I guess, from Gathoni Mashai. So they're happy to settle that in shares effectively. Does that close out all that side of things?
Yeah, I mean it's great when your advisors will take stock, especially at a premium. So it sort of demonstrates the belief they have in Shuka, probably where it's trading at the moment, the sort of 3 to 4p range. It went from 3 to 4p just on the announcement that we're doing the JSE listing. But we've got to prove to the investors and the community that we can deliver on the projects, and I can be true to my word and the milestones I'm giving and the timelines I'm giving people.
And GMI will actually hold 20%, so that's quite a significant chunk of the company there that presumably is quite a sticky holding.
Yeah, I mean they had 18% before the 1.6 million shares went across, so it just brought them back closer to the original. If you recall, GMI were a 20 in the restructuring in 2023. GMI came in with a shareholding and an unsecured loan. They had a 20% holding or thereabouts. Obviously, new shares have been issued in the meantime, so that's diluted them down slightly. It kind of really brings them back to where they were before. And then you've got AUO Investments out of Dubai, who are just below 30%, which was their original holding. I think they're at 28.4 at the moment.
Okay. Well, I want to get a bit of a snapshot of where things are. You've been in the role, as you say, for a few months now. So just bring us up to speed, remind investors what Shuka is all about, the projects you have, and the timeline that we're looking at here.
Yeah, sure. We have the Rukwa coal mine in Tanzania, which historically has produced 4,000 tons a month. In its sort of glory days, that has been limited in what it's produced in the last 12 months. But I'm in discussions to try and get investment into that. It won't need a great deal of investment because the construction's all done. It's ready. It's sitting there ready to go.
Right.
And bring that back to life and get that operating at up to 5,000 tons a month, which is what it's capable of doing. It just needs some care and bit of love and attention to get it back to that level, and obviously some money.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a very clear goal. Just following on from that, then, how once you've got that investment that you're working on at the moment, how quickly can you get it to that level? And then how much of a priority will that project be for the company? Will it provide baseload cash flow for the company, or what would be the deal here? Is it upside scale, or is it just, as I say, sort of baseload cash flow coming in?
At 5,000 tons a month, I think a lot of the offtake wasn't perhaps considered before. You've got a lot of cement. I mean, this isn't metallurgical coal quality. It's not going to make. It's not like Sheffield. It's not going to go to Sheffield Steel and make the greatest stainless steel in the world or whatever. But what it can be used for, and our team has investigated, is some of the cement plants, for example, in Eastern Africa. It's ideal for that, and I think a lot of those outlets perhaps hadn't been explored. So again, that's part of you want to see where the product can go, and yes, you want it generating cash flow, initially washing its face, and then returning cash back into Shuka that we can invest in other projects.
Okay.
The one over my shoulder here being our target, which that is the Kabwe zinc-lead mine in Zambia, in the town of Kabwe by its name. It's world famous. I think we've reported on it before. It opened in 1904. It was actually where they found Broken Hill Man, the skull that sits in the Natural History Museum. So that was exciting for me when I first got out there. I'd like, when we take over ownership, I'd like to have some sort of historical site that the school kids can all come and visit, because they haven't got that at the moment. The pits are flooded, but we have already engaged GeoQuest in Zambia to start looking at the geology. They've completed a GIS study. The next stage is to look at all the underground workings. And obviously, as previously announced to the market, the Leopard Mining and Exploration, who own the project currently, they've extended the deadline to mid-June for the cash consideration and the issuance of shares in order for Shuka to take over that project. So they will also then become, a large shareholder in Shuka. And obviously, conversations are still on track. I'm talking to various parties. I would dearly like to do a non-dilutive funding of that project, which I think the shareholders would appreciate as well.
Yeah, indeed. So it's only two projects. So just give me a sense, or give investors a sense of A, the timeline, and B, if there's any further things on the horizon, other acquisitions.
Nothing else on the horizon yet. We do look at other projects, obviously keeping it within our region. There's quite a bit on your plate to get Kabwe going and get that transaction done.
Okay.
And then the geological interpretation, the drilling that'll be required. This mine, you can see the head frame there. This mine goes down to 1,600 feet with underground workings. So there'll be a lot of work needed to be done on the dewatering. There'll be a lot of work to understand the detailed geology. There's been some old drilling in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That obviously isn't going to be JORC compliant or 43101 compliant in the modern age. So we've got to mirror some of the drilling, redo some other drilling, diamond hole structure. There's other minerals there that hadn't previously been reported. So that's quite exciting. In this new day and age with critical metals, etc., there are weird and wonderful elements that are used in our phones and on our cars that weren't considered before. And also, there's a medical or an environmental focus to be done in the town, because I think that was it's been documented that the previous owners, ZCCM or Anglo American, weren't as ESG or corporate CSR focused as they could have been, and I think that needs to be changed. That does need to change, and that's be front and center for us. Okay. Your social license to operate in places like that is crucial.
Okay. And can you talk to timelines at all, Richard, after this JSC ringing of the bell or the gong, whatever you're going to be doing, in terms of the project, when you're actually going to get some key milestones achieved?
Well, the first key milestone is 11th of June for the Kabwe transaction. Okay. That is, front and center, I think, is in every shareholder's mind. Is Richard going to find the funding to get that done? That's what I'm working on at the moment. And yeah, so that's our first key. That's our first key milestone.
Okay. Well, Rich Lloyd, the CEO of Shuka Minerals, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll be speaking again a bit more regularly now that things can hopefully get motoring.
I do hope so. Thank you very much, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.